Ladies and gentlemen, most people don't know this, but Keffe D confessed in that 2009 Las Vegas Police Department interview to staying at the Monte Carlo the night Tupac was assassinated. I have proof. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Life is like those cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy Delray Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor. Click on the thumbs up button. Also, subscribe to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. And like I said before, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and click on that little bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, most people don't know this, right? But for the people who've been paying attention and understanding that I'm going to bring you nothing but facts, nothing but great information, if you will. Keffe D confessed already. They don't have to put Keffe D in Vegas. Keffe D already put himself in Vegas, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they knew where to look. But most people wouldn't have known this based on not seeing the 2009 or hearing the 2009 confession tape in which he gave evidence to his whereabouts on the night that Tupac, or where he was staying at that time in Vegas, ladies and gentlemen. This is groundbreaking right here. Check this out. I want to show you something. But before I show you that, let's get into it like this. We're going to peel back the layer. We're going to peel back the layer on this unsolved Tupac Shakur case. Like I said, now that we know Keffe D is back on track to his original story, to the original confessions that he made to Greg Kading them and getting the proffer agreement, and the 2009 confession that he gave to Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Let me break it to you like this. You know what? I'm not even going to make you wait. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is right here. Look. This is a snippet from the interview that was in 2009. The detective asked Keffe D, where'd you stay? And Keffe D said, I stayed at, the Monte Carlo, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is right here. So for the most of the people who were running around, and like I said, once again, see, Carl Arnold knew this. His former attorney, he knew this. But now Keffe D has new counsel. So now that kind of takes this situation in a different direction, if you will, ladies and gentlemen. Most people don't really understand. So Keffe D already placed himself at the Monte Carlo. That's one of the most damning things. Like I said, you're talking about being a witness against yourself, right? This one right here, it's shocking. During that tape confession in 2009, Duane Keffe D. Davis admitted that he stayed at the Monte Carlo Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, the night of Tupac's murder. Let's get into this really, though, right? The context of the 2009 confession, right? In 2009, Las Vegas police and federal agents sat down with Keffe D in what's become one of the most pivotal tape confessions connected to the Tupac murder. Now, Keffe D had immunity during those talks, meaning he could speak freely without fear of immediate prosecution. And speak freely is exactly what he did. Point blank period. What he admitted shocked investigators after the September 7, 1996 shooting. He and others involved didn't just vanish into the night, right? No, he revealed that he stayed at the Monte Carlo Hotel right on the Strip in Las Vegas following the murder. That detail placed him back at the scene of history. not just as a witness, but as a man tied directly to the aftermath of the crime. Ladies and gentlemen, what witnesses do you need? Keffe D basically told this to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department without any kind of deal in place, without any kind of immunity in place, extending it from the federal government, in which the U.S. attorney had gave him the original proffer agreement, to walking in a Las Vegas Police Department confession room, if you want to call it, interrogation room, if you want to call it, right, and basically admitting that he was at he stayed at the Monte Carlo Hotel, right? That was one of the big things, like Keffe D said on ABC News. He was like, they can't place me at they can't place me in Vegas. I wasn't even in Vegas. Ladies and gentlemen, how crazy that would sound if he still was still trying to argue that, and they played this 2009 tape confession in the courtroom, right? The new thing is now back to the Diddy bounty, right? Diddy put a bounty on, Sean P. Diddy Combs put a bounty on Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur, right? Now, why does the Monte Carlo matter? Most people might ask. They say, why does it matter? You know what I mean? Now, why does staying at the Monte Carlo even matter? Here's why. Because a lot of people are like, why that matter? He could be lying about that. That's what most people like to say, right? Here's why. Most criminals, right, often flee after a high-profile hit like this one against Tupac Shakur. But Keffe D's decision to remain in Vegas, chilling at a strip hotel, suggests a level of confidence or recklessness, right? Either confidence or recklessness, right, that investigators could not ignore. Think about it. He's telling them, this is what we did, thinking that, you know what, I'm never going to be charged with this. They gave me immunity and blah, blah, blah. But writing a book, going on the Art of Dialogue, going on Vlad, going on all these other platforms was not a part of the deal, right? It connects him with his crew, not only to the Cadillac used in the drive-by, but also the aftermath and possible cover-up. That's why the Monte Carlo matters, right? Think about it. Las Vegas Boulevard, swarming with police, news, and casino surveillance cameras. For him to say in 2009 that he stayed at the Monte Carlo was like admitting, like, yeah, I was there, hiding in plain sight. Basically that's what it's like saying, yeah, So hold on, let me take it back to it. Hold on, because you got to understand, the question being asked when he said, detective. So where'd you stay? Remember, this statement is taking place in a police department. This is the detective talking to him. Where'd you stay? Keffe, I stayed, the Monte Carlo? Huh? Where they do that at? Like I said, once again, but this is what was going on at that particular time. This is what Keffe D was doing. He was letting it all hang out, right? So like I said, it not only connects him and his crew to the Cadillac used in the drive-by, right? But for him to say in 2009, he stayed at the Monte Carlo was like what? Admitting like, yeah, I was there hiding in plain sight. And y'all was dumb enough, y'all didn't even go look to find me. That's what it sounds like in the aftermath. I don't think that was what Keffe D was actually saying, but that's what it would sound like in the aftermath. You know what I mean? Like he outwitted police officers, and sometimes they like to twist it like that also, right? The weight of the tape confession, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this is heavy. This is heavy. The tape confession from 2009 has become a central piece in the puzzle. Prosecutors are now using it in their 2023 murder case against Keffe D. What he thought was immunity is now being tested in court. His own words from that interview are haunting Keffe D right now. Point blank, period. He said on the ABC interview, I should have never said nothing. You actually right about that, right? And let's not forget, this wasn't a slip of the tongue. He volunteered details, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. he volunteered details who was in the car, how the gun was passed, and then the cherry on top, saying he stayed at the Monte Carlo afterwards. That admission is part of what prosecutors point to when they say Keffe D is not just a storyteller, he's a participant. Like I said once again, these are Keffe D's words, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at the larger picture, though. Look at the larger picture. Let's zoom out. Keffe D has long painted himself as both an insider and a survivor of the Southside Crips, right? His 2019 book, Compton Street Legend, repeats some of the same claims, but the 2009 tape interview confession is different. Like, wow, I don't understand, man. Like I said, you got some real dudes out here, from different places in LA that would never do this. You know what I mean? And them guys are to be respected for who they were, cleaning up their lives and all of those things and moving in a different direction, right? And like I said, I don't think, I mean, at least I wouldn't think, Keffe D could be honored at this particular point. You know what I mean? Like I said, he, I guess they would call that the cardinal sin when somebody, snitches and professes to be a gangster. I don't know how that works, right? So now, as we zoom out, right, Keffe D has long painted himself as the shot caller, right? He was that guy, but in his 2019 book, Compton Street Legend, he repeats some of the same claims. But in the 2009 tape confession, it's different. It's not like a book detail. You know what I'm saying? This is not a book deal. This is in front of detectives. You know what I mean? This is not, TV. It's not a TV interview or nothing like that. When somebody asks you a question, you say, it's him. Listen, it's Keffe D in front of investigators with the tape rolling. So he's being recorded, spilling his guts, telling everything. It's crazy. I don't really get it, right? That Monte Carlo admission matters because it ties him to a timeline from the MGM Grand beatdown of his nephew, right? Which was wrong. Wrong. Point blank period, right? If you look at it from what everybody said, you know what I mean? Even Tupac's father, like I said, I interviewed Tupac's father, Billy Garland, and I asked him, I said, do you think Tupac was wrong for putting his hands on Orlando Anderson? And Tupac's father said yes. Right? If the man's father said yes, I can't argue with that. And Billy Garland is a solid dude. Point blank period. Right? You know what I mean? To the white Cadillac on the Flamingo. Right? So like I said, the Monte Carlo admission, when Keffe D testified about him staying at the Monte Carlo Hotel, that admission matters because it ties him to a timeline from the MGM Grand fight, right, with his nephew Orlando, to the white Cadillac on Flamingo, to the strip hotel room after the gunfire. It paints the full circle of tragic events that night, ladies and gentlemen. This is crazy. So, like I said, I don't know where people started to think. They just, it's like if it's right in front of your face because he's saying it and he give it to you, you could deny it. That's cool. And I respect that. Like I said, I respect that. But nah, I believe what Keffe D was saying all along. There were too many details, right? So what does this tell us, ladies and gentlemen? To me, it says that sometimes the truth isn't hidden in the streets. Point blank. It's sitting right there on tape. You know what I mean? So for all of the people that was thinking that Keffe D was this upstanding street guy from what they thought, once the onion got peeled back and we started to see that, he was working undercover for the government, for the feds, and all of that. And then you see now this 2009 tape confession, right? It's sitting right there on tape. In 2009, Keffe D admitted to something that prosecutors now use against him in 2025. 2025, right? The Monte Carlo Hotel might just be another Vegas landmark to most, but for those seeking justice for Tupac Amaru Shakur, it's now another breadcrumb in the trail leading back to men who pulled the trigger and the man who allegedly called the shots. And that's what Keffe D called himself. He said he was a shot caller, right? You know, his book, A Compton Legend. I can dig it. You know what I mean? But like I said, some things are left better unsaid. But I'll leave it here. I'm going to leave it here. What do y'all think? Tell me what you guys think. Was Keffe D bragging, slipping, or just being honest because he thought he had immunity and that immunity would save him at the time? Let me know in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your ears. More importantly, I appreciate you. Like I said, your boy Delray, straight gang.
Life is like those cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.